Vampire survivors with gear fear. Sounds like a total disaster on paper, but Hellforged might be the first game making extraction work for the rest of us. We all know the standard survivors like loop. Stand still for 30 minutes, the screen fills with flashing numbers, and then you win. It's fun for a weekend, but boredom sets in fast when there's zero risk. Standard horde survival runs on an economy of time. We invest 30 minutes to scale into a god. Extraction games have the opposite problem. They run on an economy of survival. Every second spent increases the chances of you get deleted. Spend 40 minutes sneaking through bushes, sniper deletes you from 3 fields away, and you lose everything. Losing everything is just exhausting. Most mashups fail because developers don't understand this fundamental clash. You can't just slap two genres together and hope they shake hands. Hellforged tries to switch these together anyway. It drops you into a dark, isometric sandbox, floods the screen with skeletal hordes, and forces a choice. Do you push for another 5 minutes for one more legendary drop, or run for the exit before the timer runs out? Found this game on Reddit, skeptical, honestly, so I queued up my first run. First thing I hit is a gateway delivering introductory lore. The game doesn't subject you to a 45-minute unskippable cinematic about the World Tree or ancient prophecies. It just says, you're in hell, go kill things. High marks for narrative pacing. Spawned in as a melee paladin, classic heavy armor, giant weapon. Right next to my spawn was an active extraction portal. The environment looked like an old school Diablo, grim and dark. Started cleaving basic skeletons, well, watching my character cleave them, to be exact. Despite the dark fantasy look, the combat runs on a pure autopilot. You can swap to manual aiming, but since I'm lazy, I played on auto. Your character just swings on a fixed cooldown while you steer him around the screen. It's the exact same automated routine you expect from any survivors like, but it feels clean enough. Hit level 2 and took a projectile count upgrade. In horde games, it seems like scaling projectile count is the safest path to safety. Found a shrine of power for a cast speed buff, then I spotted a loot goblin. My brain immediately shut down. Threw positioning and common sense out of the window to chase a running bag of gold straight into a dead end. Goblin got away and I nearly died. Classic. Then I got even greedier. Triggered an event, the horde flooded the screen, cleared them out, but discovered an absolute best mechanic here. The loot safety pocket. You manually lock in which loot to secure rather than auto-grabbing the first trash item you touch. The single choice removes the worst part of extraction games, lets you take risks without losing your sanity, which was good. Just 2 minutes later, a massive wave trapped me in a corner, died at 11 minutes. The run was over. But my 3 secured items were waiting in the stash. In standard survivors likes, you're at the mercy of pure random rolls. If the game decides to bloat your card pool with upgrades you don't want, your build is dead, and your time wasted. So in my second run, I picked the death coil as my first skill. When it hits, enemies explode. The visual feedback is so satisfying. I also took a flame wall for more damage, but flame wall has a bit of a problem. Since it spawns in a random spot, you can't really place it where you want it when auto-targeting is active. It might spawn behind you on a single skeleton instead of where the main swarm is. It's a bit problematic, but maybe that's just me problem. But when you stack death coil with the lightning orb, you turn into a walking storm. In my second run, this setup melted elite packs in seconds. Between runs, you're back in the camp lobby. This is where you manage gear and spend resources. I extracted from my second run with 845 scraps. You spent these scraps at the blacksmith for weapon infusions. These modifiers boost your stats exponentially when combined with your equipment, way better than lazy 1% damage increase. But the real meat is the Eternal Tree. It's a giant passive talent board. Looks a lot like the passive skill tree in Path of Exile. When I first saw it, I expected lazy percentage stat bloat. Most horde games just give you plus 2% health or damage. That's boring. The Eternal Tree has real mechanical changes. Take the vacuum node. It increases your pickup radius by 3 meters every second you stand still. A single node completely shifts your playstyle. Standing still in a bullet haven is usually a bad idea. But with this node, you can build a stationary turret character, you scale your armor, stand still, let the enemies come, and the loot flies straight into your pocket. It's a high-stakes style that rewards deep coordination of the defense talents, but the class selection feels quite limited. Playtest only offers the paladin at the start. I want to see more distinct classes in the final release. The progression map has a secret path for a dark elf mage named Mortensia, but you got to discover her in tier 1 to open her path. And the lobby equipment rules are pretty rigid. You can't change your gear mid-run. You got to lock in gear choices before you queue up. Forces you to commit to your build. For my third run, I queued up to the tier 2 Crypt. Difficulty spike was immediate. Monster damage doubled, the horde density spiked. Crypt layout is a tight labyrinth of narrow corridors. There's these choke points basically everywhere. I ran into a blood tumor trial. Had to purge 3 tumors within 75 seconds. Under that kind of pressure, my pathing was kinda sloppy. You have to make instant routing choices. Do you stop to clear the corridor or sprint through the horde and take massive contact damage? Made a bad turn. A massive swarm pinned me against the wall. My health bar melted. I thought the run was dead, but I clutched it. Found a tiny gap in the pack and squeezed through. Survived on a sliver of my health. My passive life regen saved my life. I invested in regen talent nodes earlier. Without that constant health tick, I'd have lost everything. In a classic extraction game, single mistake can kill you. Here, your build decision can save you from your own stupidity. But survival was only half the battle. I still had to extract. In tier 2, you got to reach the main obelisk before the timer runs out. Sealing local rifts adds seconds to your clock. It's a constant calculation of risk. Sealing a rift grants 40 seconds, but takes 30 seconds of intense combat to clear. It's a tight margin that demands immediate execution. Do I spend time sealing another rift for more loot, or run for the exit? I decided to take the risk. I sealed one last rift, but the game threw a curveball. The map had a second combat phase, locked me into a longer fight than I wanted, but as soon as I cleared it, the game secured all my loot. Then, I met the Necromancer NPC. He offered to summon a massive boss, gave me a paid option and a free option. Now, the guy looks like a walking red flag, but free is free. So I clicked the free button. He immediately spawned a tanky skeletal mage designed to end my life. You get what you pay for. The boss had heavy, slow attacks that applied speed penalties. Most bullet haven bosses just float towards you like a giant health sponges. This one had a telegraphed spatial zone, forcing you to watch the ground while managing the skeleton spawns. I had to shift my approach. I couldn't just stand still and let my passive skills do the work. Had to kite. Automatic death coil casts, keep firing, slowly chipping away at his health. It was a slow fight. The Necromancer was incredibly tanky, but my build held together. The boss dropped dead. The floor exploded with rare gear. Scooped it all up and ran for the extraction portal. The extraction portal opened. The screen was flooding with damage numbers. Skeletons dying by the hundreds. I jumped through the portal. My tier 2 Crypt run was a success. Back in the lobby, checked my haul. I found a legendary headpiece, the Gilded Inferno Visage. It restores 36% of your maximum life every time you level up in a run. The single modifier creates a brilliant, aggressive risk loop. Instead of running away to heal, your best survival strategy is to dive deeper into dense mobs to force a level up. It really rewards high-risk aggression. That's quite a strong survival tool. I also earned the Meteor skill for my pool, which brings us to the Arsenal system. It's a pre-run deck builder where you select exactly which skills and upgrades show up in your matches. You are essentially filtering the card pool, controlling the RNG before you even spawn. It means you'll hit your core build upgrades way more consistently, shifting the game from blind luck to deliberate planning. Spent my crystals on 9 passive talent points in the Eternal Tree. I reached the Assassin Specialization node for my next run. I spent 54 minutes of recording complaining that the screen shake was giving me a physical brain damage, only to open the option menu and find the simple toggle to turn it off. I was going to edit that out so I'd look like a professional, but honestly, better for the engagement. After an hour with Hellforged, my verdict is quite simple. The game's an absolute win for the Horde Survivor fans or Bullet Haven fans. The hybrid loop solves the biggest issue of the genre. It replaces the boring auto-win endgame with the high-stakes escape. Gives you a reason to keep playing, but the gameplay foundation is rock solid. I hope the developers add more active classes and skills and skill variety down the line, which is something I'm sure they will be adding for the full release. But yeah, thanks for the time, see you in the next one, and back to the grind.